what was it we were talking earlier about, unrestricted versus restricted funds, and how difficult it is for nonprofits to get the things that they need in terms of services to really succeed. PR and marketing is very important to a nonprofit organization, just as important as it is to a for-profit. But that's something that a lot of nonprofits either don't have the funds to invest in, or don't make that a priority in their budget cycle. So a lot of folks that are in those arenas get calls all the time saying, boy, we really need marketing, we really need PR, and we really need you to do it for free. And I've worked for nonprofits, over the last 15 years, sitting in the development chair, or sitting in that executive director or CEO chair, and I know all about the fabulous for free mentality. I mean, it's ingrained in us. It's really the first thing that you're taught, right? If you're going to be a fundraiser, if you're going to lead a nonprofit, don't be afraid to ask. You can't be afraid to ask. But we also have to realize that it's a business, and that the relationships that we develop with our vendors are important to our success, and we need to find ways to make sure that they're paid for their services to some degree. And that's where really this diversification of funding is really, really important, again, so that you have those unrestricted funds to do the things that you need to do to grow the nonprofit, to enhance the mission, and therefore better serve the communities that you're there to serve. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. I know when I worked for nonprofits, my motto was, I can't wait until we're at a point where we're not needed anymore. My greatest accomplishment leading a nonprofit would be to put us out of business because we've done so well with our mission that cause no longer needs us. I mean, I think that that's really what we're all about in nonprofits, is meeting that mission and meeting that deliverable to such a point that we're not needed anymore. I mean, that's really the goal. But we can't do that if we don't diversify our funding. And we can't diversify our funding if we don't have the right infrastructure and the right board support to take us to that next level. So it all really needs to start there. And once you're there, you tackle that, then the fun stuff really starts.
Can you touch a little bit on data collection?
Yeah. When I talk about data collection, again, in many cases, it's taking a look at some of your existing supporters and looking at what are their strengths, how can they help support the diversification of your funding. So what I realized with a lot of nonprofits is they don't recognize, because we get so caught up, and I'm the same way, I get up, I turn on the laptop, and I sit there. And I'm just going crazy, And so a lot of times we operate with blinders on, and we miss the abundance of opportunities that are right in front of us. So to take that time to step back and to look at the data that we have, whether it's with our board members or our volunteers, or even some of our current donors or supporters, really looking at that data and seeing, can we take this donor to the next level? Or does this board member have a relationship with Sports Authority? And maybe Sports Authority is a great partner for a pinup campaign. So if we have a month that's designated for our cause, maybe Sports Authority will do a $1 pinup campaign for our organization during that month, our monthly awareness campaign. We just did that. One of my clients recently was the Humane Society of Greater Miami. And we were able to get Pet Supermarket to do a pinup campaign leading up to their walk for the animals. And this year was the second year we generated nearly $10,000 through dollar donations that came in. And that was really just having the cashier ask folks if they'd like to make a contribution to the Humane Society. So, really doing that kind of data analysis and getting to know the relationships that your volunteers and your board members have. It's a great question. Kimble.
You hit on something that I see a lot, and that is that data collection. I think sometimes you get so many people in a nonprofit that are so excited about the cause that they miss the analysis part so that they can continue to be excited about the cause.
Right.
There's a test that a lot of people in here might have taken, which is the Strengths Finder. Not everyone on your board, if you have a board, not all your volunteers would be the best people to do the data analysis.
Correct.
But you could find, through some of your very analytical, detail-oriented people, get a few of those when you take this test, you can get a few of those to say, okay, you're really good about the data. Here's my question is, we would need your help as to what should they be looking for.
Right.
And when they find it, now what do I do with it?
Right.
And I think that's where it misses. Okay, I got all this data. What in the heck am I
Yeah, what do I
supposed to
do with it
doing?
now? Isn't
Yeah.
it pretty? And yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
That might
It's
be
funny
a
because I have a
next
term for that. I mean, we talk a lot about turning passion into action. And a lot of board members, you know, again, board members, volunteers, lots of passion. Yeah, lots of passion. But how do you turn that passion into appropriate action? Is really, you know, is really the challenge. Oh, something that you said, Kimball, is important too, because some of the organizations that I work with who are moving towards diversifying their funding streams, again, because I preach this, you know, you've got to have the right board. It's got to be a board that's going to support that. So the first step really is taking a look at the board. Is the board representative of the primary industries in the community that you serve? It's not doing you any good if you have a board full of attorneys. If travel and tourism is the primary economic driver of your community. So really taking a look at, you know, what is the makeup of your board members, what are their skill sets, what industries do they work in, and making sure that the board, again, represents the diversity of businesses that are in your community.
I think that's a new top topic.
Yeah, I know. And I have a hard time, you know, staying away from that conversation because I can go on about board structure and infrastructure and roles and responsibilities all day long.
Can you just repeat that really quick, Tony? Make us a board, what industry they're in, and make sure they represent the diversity in what?
The diversity of the industries that are in the community that you serve. So again, being South Florida, if we don't have someone on our board that's in the travel and tourism industry, we're missing a huge economic driver in our community that should be represented on our board of directors.
And that's what I was going to add. What we try to do, but it doesn't always work, but we try to look for a mix of people where some people are action people and they're the doer people,
Right.
and then you have the money people. But you need a mix of doer and money people. You know, some
Absolutely.
people will come to a board, they're from a big company, they just donate a lot of money, and then you have the other board members that are saying, well, they don't come to the meetings. Well, okay, they're missing the meetings, but they donate a lot of money.
Right,
You know,
right.
you need a good mix of both kinds of people, and then you need to work with these.
And good for you because a lot of times within boards you have to identify the value that people bring because it gets frustrating as a board member. I'm here every third Wednesday of every month like a good board member, and board member A is like never here. So, you know, what am I doing here if board member A doesn't have to be here? So a lot of times you have to share with board members so that they understand the value that everyone's bringing, so that there isn't kind of that animosity that gets developed because I'm here every month and that other person isn't.
Wouldn't that be neat on the profile, this is just to share with board members, that you have kind of like a profile, but you also, as part of that profile of what I do and what you know my company is, that you also put what you bring to the board.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a great connection with other board members. Not, I give a lot of money.
Right,
It's
right.
that emotional connection, what they bring to the board.
A lot of boards that I serve on actually ask for that as like a requirement, but I think it's just one or two people that actually really look at it, make the decision. It's never like a consortium.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing, to your point about, you know, board members that are connected with a company that is typically a large donor, then we get into the whole conversation about succession planning. So if you have a board member that's serving on your board that works for American Express, we need to have a succession plan. So if that person gets promoted or moves, who's going to fill that void within American Express so you don't lose that relationship? I'm getting a little off topic now, I know, but it all, you know, that's why I always say synergistic solutions, because there's a synergy to all of this, and the success of it all relies on one another. So very rarely are you going to find a really thriving, dynamic nonprofit organization without a really thriving, dynamic board of directors. It all really starts there, and then, you know, the infrastructure. So I think my time is just about up. I hope I covered, and it's quick, but if nothing else, just to get the message across that diversification of funding is so important in today's environment. It's something that's really obtainable for all nonprofits, regardless of your size. There's something you can do that'll diversify your funding, that'll really be exciting, and that'll show you the additional revenues that you're looking for. So, any other questions? Great. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.